Hi everyone, this is FC.Liverpool. Everything's about Liverpool. I've got great guests on. Some are running a bit late, but I've got a great guest on, expat, all the way over there in the States. And most probably he'll tell me, I've got to go pick the kids up. Like the last time. Oh, he's a great fella. So what we'll be talking about before we get on are these two lads. We'll be talking about them. And I've got a great guest. So he's a lovely fella. And it's Daz, all the way from the States. And there he is. Hey, Daz. You're okay?
Yeah, good. Just trying to stay cool. It's like 108 degrees out here today.
Well, I'll tell you what, Daz, I think that's a good analogy for what's happening at Liverpool at the moment. But we'll go into that. Now, I just want to put this comment up. And it's by a good friend of mine, Steve Evans. And he says, FSG are conning everyone. Now, what we've got to do, what we've got to think of is last week, the owners came out and said, we can't afford to let someone goes. And that's going back to the model of sell to buy, in my opinion. Right? That's in my opinion. So what was your take on it? Was you very surprised that, the likes of Henderson or Fabinho?
I'm really surprised, to be honest. I never saw that coming. I really didn't. I mean, I'm a bit confused that, like, you've got conflicting reports. You've got some of the big boys saying like Hendo's ready to go. I mean, you can't. I mean, 700k a week. I mean, I'd be on a flight to Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's too much money. But then with Hendo, he's been so vocal for human rights, for the lacing out, that it just seems like very hypocritical of him to go. On the Fabinho front, he wasn't very good last season. Everyone says maybe his legs have gone, but then you see the last 10 games of last season, and it looked like he got back to being the old Fabinho. But when somebody throws, if they're going to throw 40, 50 million at Fabinho, I mean, that's something that you have to really think about.
Well, if you think about it, as when we bought him for 40 million.
Yeah.
So and now he's 29. And as you said, right through the season until the last 10 games, shall we say, he came good again. He just came good again. Now, I said, and I still think this, by the way, it's just my opinion. The way our midfield was throughout the campaign, the start of the campaign and into the middle of the campaign, going out of every cup and everything else, our midfield was diabolical with the injuries as well. We can't just excuse bad play. Now, Fabinho, on the other hand, he was covering for everything, and no one notices that. He's covered for he covered for the back four. He covers as well for the midfielders who are shocking in my opinion, and also trying to feed the forwards. Then when we got a little bit of midfield at the end, you just said it, and I said it, and everybody else said it. He played his normal game.
Now, I think, like Frank, maybe it's Fabinho that's gone to Klopp. Like, I'm just not in it anymore for Liverpool. We don't know that, and I think we especially with Henderson as well. We saw those pictures of him in the gym. He looked ripped. He looked like he was ready to go for this season, and I just don't understand I mean, I think that this one hurts with Hendo for me because he's
Okay.
been
Okay. Can I
amazing.
come in there? Can I do a few, only a few comments? Well, there are comments like this one here. I'll be going to the rest of them, Taz, and just comment on them, okay? So, but let me go through them. Steve Evans says they've got more money than you can imagine, unwilling to part with the money they've taken out of the club, Frank. We've spoken about this. They admit that they don't put money into the club. This is FSG, obviously. And then you've got Lee Brady. Hello, Frank and guest. Hope you're both okay. I do think it's time. Now, there is another take on Henderson. I think it's time for Enzo to go now. If Fab goes, then we could use that 60 million, because with the money we're going to get for the other fella, Henderson, towards another midfielder. And we'd be going back to that as well, during the course of the podcast. Maybe midfielders like Levia and Toran or Casido. That's a good shout.
Well, you're gonna have to bring in two.
Yeah.
So 60 mil is nothing.
No,
and especially if Fabinho goes as well, we can't have a Lavia who's 19 to hold up that midfield. You have to have somebody that's already made. Lavia has had one season in the Premier League. I mean, why not just stick with Bajcetic then? This is the thing. If both of those two players go, we've got to bring in absolute quality.
Okay, what about Casido? Would he be
100 million for him?
Yeah.
I mean, FSG aren't going to pay 100 million for any player.
No.
Not a chance.
No.
So this has hit us hard because, I mean, there's even talk of Thiago going as well. I mean,
I think he will.
That will be Milner, Ox, Keita, Hendo, Fabinho, Thiago. If it happens, I mean, some people obviously Ox and Keita barely played, but they were still in the squad. So that would mean 6 players from midfield leaving, and then you've got the 2 new lads who we're going to talk about coming into a totally different environment. I mean,
no one's picked that up. But no, what you've just said there, I've seen nobody pick that up, actually. A totally different midfield to what they expect. Because obviously they've seen Liverpool play. They've seen the lads. They've seen the likes of Henderson. They've seen the likes of Fabinho. But out of the 2, let's just say this. Now, that's what you just said there. Steve Evans says FSG will not part with 100 million that Brighton want for Casido. So that's a non-starter. Rather have Barella anyway. Okay. Now let's just again. It's only what you're saying. Bajcetic far better than Lavia. Think about that.
And Southampton want 50 million when we've already got an 18-year-old that's it's too much. I mean, we need a ready-made player to come in Fabinho's spot, 100%. Not a player that's going to be good in 2 seasons. We need a player that's good now.
Yeah. Well, but Steve Evans says, putting it in perspective, really, Bajcetic is better than Levy, that young lad, who you said is only, and I said on many of occasions, I didn't want him, to be honest. I've got nothing against the lads or whatever, but to me, there are far better players out there what you said. But then again, Steve Evans says Batacic is better. And Steve Evans says throw Trent into the centre mid, buy a class right back and another centre half. I think that will be 3-4, 3-4-3, in my opinion. That's how they'll go next season.
Yeah, I just don't think we'll go in for a right back.
Nobody does.
Not
Nobody does.
You've got Gomez, who probably won't play that much as a centre back, so he'll be the backup to Trent. You've got Connor Bradley, who had a really good season with Bolton. Trent's still going to play the hybrid role. He's not going to be put in midfield. He's going to play that double pivot.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. It's just frustrating to see. I just wish we had more transparency from the club. Like if Hendo's not going, or Fabinho's not going, or Thiago's not going, come out and say it. Yeah. Because I'm over there. You're
not getting. I understand that because you're a good Red. You supported them all your life, albeit that you're over there in the States, and it must get you because look, just look at these, right? Please look at these things. You've got Gareth Williams, and he says enough is enough, and he wants them out. He wants them out. Neil Broderick, FSG Tour winning the league. Now, this is a good point, actually, and it does resonate with fans, myself included. FSG Tour winning the league after 30 years would satisfy the fans and keep us quiet while they use us like a big, giant credit card. That's it. So you've got the likes of these I'm sorry there. I've just got all sorry about this. I'm sorry, lads. Hang on a sec. I'm sorry. There. Yeah, Stephen Snape. All new midfield could go one of two ways. It's only what you're saying. Either take an inordinate time to gel, or we get 3 or 4 players with a point to prove, which to me equates effort from the new signings. What do you think of that comment?
I mean, it's a good comment. I mean, there is only 2 ways it can go. It can go, balls up, or it can be a success. We don't know yet.
Yeah, go first.
We all want it to be successful, but I mean, we all know how the Premier League is. Once it starts, it's bam, 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 bam. Can these new signings gel this quickly? Yeah. Plus, only 2 of them, are already in now for pre-season. We don't know when the next 2 will get in.
Yeah, absolutely, Lee Brady. I agree with Steve Evans. I do think Batacic is better than that Leviathan lad. But it would be good to have these 2 quality players at their young age rotating between games alongside Slobber and McCallum. I don't know whether you're over here in Liverpool. It's very difficult to say these Hungarian. They're so funny. But there they are. There's the lads. And, you've got them. They're new to the club. But also, it's only what you said, and what a lot of people are saying, by the way, Daz, is that they're coming into an environment and they're seeing the likes of Henderson, the club captain, leaving, and Fabinho, and possibly Thiago. I'm going to ask you a question here, and I'll ask the lads on here as well. Out of the three, who's the least player that you'd like to stay, not go, but stay?
I'd like Fabinho to stay.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you.
Just because Frank Thiago doesn't give me enough minutes.
Yeah.
You know, he's our luxury player. I love the lad. I think he's an exceptional footballer.
Yeah.
He's always injured.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So Fabinho for me, because I still think he's got something to give Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said at the end, I think he'd be great with these two. Szoboszlai. I think I've said that right. Szoboszlai and McAllister. I think he'd be good with them. I really do. But as the lads are saying, I've said it on loads of occasions. We need another one, by the way. We need another midfielder. We really do. We've lost too many. Too many.
Yeah, whether Henderson leaves or not, we still need another two, like one or two,
Yeah, of course.
to come in. So it doesn't matter, like whether he stays. We still need these players in.
Yeah. Well, I gave the analogy. This is on Monday. This is all before about the Henderson and the Fabinho breaking news. And here's what I said. My analogy, that is, I said, if you've got a little place and you've got 4 walls that need painting, you're painting one. Great, it looks great. Then you paint another one. You go, oh, that looks even better. But the other 2 are still there, unpainted. And that's my analogy, because we've got to paint those 2 other walls. We have to. Yeah, we have to if we want to challenge or whatever.
Spot on, Frank. I totally agree. That's it. All stems back from last summer, doesn't it? It's showing me now how unprepared we were, because we should not be letting 6+ players leave.
No,
that's ridiculous to me. Like, no. I don't know who's been behind it, whether it's Klopp or upper management, but it's a shambles at the moment.
Well, you've got to look. We don't like saying Klopp, or we don't like to blame him. Not for what he's done for us, not for what but he has to be criticised sometime, and this is the time to criticise. Remember, excuse me. Remember the start of last season, the very start, and on the penultimate day of the window closing, he said, didn't he? He said, "You were right to the journalists. I was wrong." That was about midfielders, because we were all going, I suppose you were as well, we were all going on, we've got to bring midfielders in. And he said, and look what we got. Arthur Melo, who played 13 minutes. And that's one of the downfalls of last season. That's why we're out the Champions League.
Yeah, just not good enough. I mean, we went in for Tuchemene, and he chose Madrid, and then there was absolutely no backup plan. There was Bellingham, but everyone, all the supporters, as well as Klopp and even FSG, knew that Bellingham would be 100+.
Yeah. So
it should have been put to bed last summer that we weren't going to try and go in for Bellingham. And then, I think more and more people are getting frustrated with FSG, and they see this PR spin that's happening. Throw something out there for the supporters to be happy about 1 minute, and then we'll do something.
You know what I call them, Josh? I call the owners, that come out and they're saying something about, players and everything else, and we don't get them, and it's a spin. I call them the spin dryer of Liverpool. I really do, because they spin that much, and it's wrong. Now, you mentioned Tuchemene coming here. I mentioned Toumani as well to one of my guests over in Seattle. He comes over, you know, I see him when he comes over and goes to match. And he said, and this is the big, this is, I don't know what it was last season or the season before. He was here and I said, we're going to get Toumani, you know, and he was made up. He was made up for me saying we're going to get that Toumani. But you know what my angle is on that? I'm telling you now. My angle on that is that we had no money. And Klopp wouldn't sell any players, which is a good thing. You know, we don't have to sell players to bring money in. So there was no money in the kitty. And Steve Evans keeps going on about it. You know, and everybody, and I'm not just talking about, you know, a couple of people. I'm talking about lots of people who look at FSG. And you get the lads, you know, that's fine with me. What they're saying about, oh no, keep them. Keep the owners are good, you know, because look what they've done for us. They've come out eventually and said, you know, everything was already paid for. We're buying it, us, the club, not them. And this is what's so annoying. And this is all the spin. But unfortunately, some fans are spinning for them by saying, look what they've done. I don't know what they've done, to be honest. I know that they've taken, look, they're a business. They look after their shareholders. They look after their shareholders. If it'll be you and I remember Redberg giving them 600 million. And, you know, oh, it's got nothing to do with the club, that. But wouldn't you think that they would have invested on the field that 600 million or part of it? You know, 100 million. Why not give it 100 million out of the 600? They still would have had 500 million for what they wanted to do with it. And that's the annoying thing. Anyway, yeah, Gareth Williams, rather play Batatic than waste 50 million. 50 million. And Lee Brady's, if Henderson is going with Fab, I think we will end up keeping Thiago. I think that's a foregone conclusion. And before we go on to that, I'd just like to say to people, please just subscribe if you haven't. It costs absolutely nothing. And like, get the algorithm up there, please. Even the lads on here now, just press like. Just press like. So, what Lee Brady says, if Henderson is going with Fab, I think we will end up keeping Thiago. And that's what I was going to ask you before. You know, would you rather keep Fab or Thiago? You've got to keep Fab, haven't you? Because as you said, he's a luxury player.
Yeah, 100%. You just can't let all three of them go.
Oh.
I mean, you lose the experience. I mean, you know, people talk about leadership. You know, if Hendo goes, we have a lot of leaders in this team, and Thiago's one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it'll be a very interesting, I think, next 24, 48 hours for this football club and see where we're at, because there's got to be a massive talk. You know, Fabinho goes into Klopp's office, or maybe he already has, same with Hendo as well.
I reckon he's gone in. Henderson's gone in. And there's where you have the unfortunate. I'm bringing, hang on a minute. Bear with me on this. I've got two lads here, two great lads. I'm sorry there, Brian. There's the lad from Seattle.
Hello, how are you?
And there's another good lad. We've seen this fella for ages, and he's just a big red. And there he is, Keith Taylor.
Pete.
Thanks, Frank. Are you mate? I'm glad that you're on. I'm amazed up that you're on, because me and Jazz have been, you know, swearing our heads off, and Jazz has been running out, chasing the kids out the room and everything else. But, you know, we're here now. We were just saying about, I'll go to you, Keith. seeing that you're all sitting there all nice and with your head all, nearly cut and your beard shaved, all groomed. So I'm going over to you. We're going on about Hendo and Fabinho going. What's your take on that?
Do you know what? I was talking to someone today about it because we included Thiago in that as well. And if you go on last season's...
Well, hang on a minute. Can I just come in there? No, I'm just going to tell the viewers and everybody else, like Keith knows people in the know, and he's very close to people. And sorry what he said. Go ahead.
If you go on last season, or the season's just gone, I'd get rid of both of them if you went on last season.
Yeah.
Or I'd let both of them go, because Henderson, although he actually sort of played 47 games, I think it was, over the period of the season, I can't really think of any game that really stood out. And it was only with Fabinho over the last sort of number of games where we went on that run that he played okay. But if you go on the previous seasons, since Klopp's been there, and they've both been there under Klopp, I think they've both been, compared to last season, compared to before, they were really poor. But my fear is that, breaking up a team and the spine of a team, because Henderson's a big influence, not just on the pitch but off. Fabinho is, one time they were saying he was the best defensive midfielder in Europe. Thiago, if he's fit, you'd have him in the starting 11 every time, because he can break defences, and what have you. And then we've seen when Souness came into the club, he got rid of too many players who were the spine of the team and then, been the heartbeats of the team for a long time. And look what happens. So I'd be afraid of letting both of them go. Would I be disappointed if one or either? Probably Fabinho, if out the two. Because, if there was anyone that you could sort of say, well, they're on the decline, it's difficult to say, isn't it? But if there's one of the two of them that's on the decline, Fabinho would be for me, because he had a few poor games the previous season, even though we were going for the quadruple. But I honestly think that the season before, when we were going for the quadruple, took a hell of a toll, not just on all the squad, but particularly Henderson, because he was picking up injuries as well. He was having a few injuries, wasn't he? So I think it definitely had an impact on Hendo, psychologically more so.
Well, the thing is as well, you mentioned injuries. He gets injured every season. And remember when we won the Prem, and all the players were on the cop, all right, there was COVID and everything else, but he was injured. He never played the last few games, a lot of games, but actually, and his leg was in a sort of a plaster thing. I don't know what it was, but he threw his kit on, came up, and lifted the cup up. Lifted the Prem up. But the point is, he does suffer injuries. He really suffers injuries. And, we can't be too sentimental about, keeping players. And we're going to ask Brian his opinion on, what we've been talking about. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. Hi. That's a tough one. Keith made some great points. In fact, you sold me on either Hendo or Fabinho. I'd say I'd rather lose Fabinho, but as much as we criticize him about the back passes, short passes, and playing very conservative with it, he's a battler, he's a warrior. So I hate to see him go, but fair play, let him go. Good luck, Godspeed. Thanks for the memories. But back to your point, what you're saying, if the two of them go, that's a tough one. Yeah, I definitely hold on to Thiago, because we need someone who's leadership, and more important, someone with championship experience. Because those two go. Who's going to teach the younger players how to do things, or what you do to win a championship, to hoist a cup? And we won't have that once in the mid once they're gone.
Well, what do you think of Zaz's comments? When we opened the pod, and he said the two lads, they came into Anfield, and now they're seeing more or less the most experienced midfielders go, including the club captain. So, and his terminology was they've come into a different environment. I'd like you to comment on that, Keith, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think it also, one thing I was going to say before, it also depends on, let's say, for a 33-year-old and a 31-year-old, if we got 70, 80 million for both of them, I think for me, that then I'd snap the hand off, because that then entitles you to what it can do. You can go and get the young lad from Southampton, Lavia or Lavia, how you pronounce it, and then maybe someone with a little bit more experience, maybe late 20s, who's still got a good engine in them, because obviously what Jurgen likes is that, because of the the pressing that we do, it takes a lot out of you over a period of time. And I mean, Millie was a bit of a freak, I was talking to John Achterberg, was saying that out of all pre-seasons, Henderson was the fittest and had the best level of times out of the whole outplaying squad all over those years. So it's not necessarily the age, but I think what you're saying, Frank, Hendo picking up injuries, and he does pick up injuries every season, yeah, you're right. But if it all comes down, for me personally, if you're going to get 70, 80 million for two players who are in, 31, 33, would you snap the hands off? I personally would. Go and get a young lad from Southampton, but someone with some experience. I'm not quite sure.
Well, I don't think he has the experience. And I'll go to Zaz about that, then I'll go to Brian. What do you think about Lavia and his, only one season? He's only 19 in the Prem. Would you go for him? Would you, bring him in to replace whoever, Fabinho or Henderson?
I mean, for me, for 50 million, no chance. I mean, we have Pathetic. That's what I keep saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, they've said it on here as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I just
look, it's here. We'd rather play Bacetic than waste 50 million on Lavia.
Yeah, I just don't understand having an 18 and a 19-year-old as your number 6. Like Keith said, we need somebody that's been in the league for a while, that knows the Premier League, and is in mid-20s, 25, 26. To sort it out, because you just can't rely on an 18 and a 19-year-old as your number 6. Not a chance.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brian?
I agree. Yeah. Well, I give Lavia credit because he has played the league. He has Premier League experience. But you're right, 18 and 19-year-old. That's putting a lot on them. Bacetic, yes, played phenomenally last year. But I wouldn't throw him into the Wolves per se. I'd get someone, as you mentioned, someone in their mid-20s. Again, my bias, I'd go for Tchouaméni. If he's available with that 70 million, make a bid for him and play him with Bacetic, or get Lavia and Tchouaméni.
Well, okay. Remember, I mentioned you before, Brian.
Yeah.
And remember when I said to you, we're getting Tchouaméni, and you was made up.
Yeah.
Because we were told we were getting them, and that's the problem with, I'm not being funny, but with the owners, and it's the owners. It's like what Steve Evans says. FSG aren't interested in improving the squad. They've shown this over the last few seasons. They don't want to invest. Just take. And that's the way it is, I'm afraid. That's the way it is. And there's another lad. You know, I like this fella. And I'll go to Zaz with the first one, and then to Brian, and to you then, Keith, please. And there's another name, Colwell, Levy Colwell. I have no idea who this guy is or where he plays, etc. Not a chance to look into him. But do you know much about this player, Colwell?
Well, yeah, I mean, he plays for Chelsea and he's just won the Euro under-21s. That's about as much as I know as well. He's a centre-back. Yeah. But, I mean, again, Chelsea don't need to sell him.
No.
You know, Pochettino's going to have that sit down with him for pre-season when he comes back, and he's going to, you know, give a plan for him. And I just don't see Chelsea selling him to us. And again, they can up the price. Everyone knows we're looking for players now, especially if we get rid of Fabinho and Henderson. It's like, you know, everybody knows we need players, so the price goes up. I mean, he's a talent, but that's the thing. He's a talent. Same with Levia. He's talent, but he's not there yet.
No.
So I just think, I mean, we have to be really careful who what we spend money on, obviously, because we have owners that don't spend money. So whatever, like, I mean, I hope if Hendo goes, we at least get 20 mil for him. You know, if they can afford 700k a week, they can afford 20 million.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
Fabinho leaves 40, 45. Recoup what we spent on Fabinho.
Yeah, but, that's right.
Yeah.
He doesn't spend 40.
Again, the Colwell, he's a talent. You know, he's a top talent. I didn't watch the under-21s. I don't watch England, so I don't really know.
I don't watch England either.
It's just what I see, you know, on BBC or Sky. You know, he's talented, looks the real deal. But again, you know, he's what, 19, another 19-year-old.
Okay, what about you, Brian? What about? Do you know anything about this Colwell? I know Keith.
No, I know nothing about him except he's a center back and he won the U21 Euros, and he plays for Chelsea as stated earlier. If he's someone who can help, great. But you're right, we have to be careful of what we spend. We need center backs. Oh, by the way, Sepp Vandenberg, I think is got the okay to look for another club. But anyway, yeah, we do need center back, and if he can help, then yeah, go pay it. I mean, we're in a rebuild. Everyone on the planet knows we're in a rebuild, and we're changing what systems are changing and the midfield. So we're going to pay.
Yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anytime Liverpool go in for a player, anytime, no matter if the brilliance, they want money. They want a lot of money than what they're worth. You know, the players that are being sold. What do you think, Keith, of this Colwell?
Well, first of all, can I just say about the transfer fees? We've got a steal with McAllister, 35 million.
Yeah.
And we've had players down the years that we have practically stolen. I'm talking about Mane, Salah. So I disagree with, you've got to go out and buy, pay this amount of money. Because we won a Premier League with players who were in the 30 millions. And McAllister, and I tell you, the new lad, and try and pronounce it as Loversai. The lad's going to be sensational. Just take it from me, I promise you. Now, Stephen Warnock tells me that Colwell, of all the players that he's seen, and he's seen a lot of Premier League matches over the season, he was the most impressive centre-half throughout the season that he'd seen, apart from the lad at Man City. He really rates Akanji. You just pronounce it. But this Colwell, he said, when he was at Brighton, he said he was unbelievable. Now, you've also got to remember that Brighton offered 40 million themselves for him. So for them they were the first team to come in for 40 million. So that then sets a precedent for a bidding war, I suppose. Chelsea sort of rate them really, really highly, but the players that they've got there within their squad that they've got to play, or look to play. But if he's that good, then Pochettino should start him, shouldn't he? But I'd love to see him at Liverpool. But you pay for. I'm trying to think of the word, potential. And if it spends, say, if you're going to spend 40 million on Carlyle or 50 million, and 50 million on Lavia, then if they become really good, then what's the sell-on fee? You just don't know. Look at Coutinho. I think we bought him for. I'm trying to think what Coutinho
10 or 12. I think was it 10, 12?
I was about 10 million, wasn't he? Coutinho from Inter Milan. 142 million. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? And look how his career's gone. So, you have to take a chance sometimes. And honestly, I promise you that the club will have done the due diligence on these players, not just the last 12 months, but over a period of time. There's that many scouts, and all the stats and everything come in, not just of Premier League, but your under 23s and your youth and everything else. All these stats come in, and so there's something there for these two players in particular. There's another lad called Van der Ven, and Shares as well, because Shares has actually been at the club on trial when he was 17. So these are players
from Fiorentina there, Keith.
Yeah. So they've done all the Torino. So they've done all the homework, but sometimes you've got to take a chance, because you could go and listen. We could go and pay £200 million for Mbappe, and he flops. You just don't know. It's taking that chance. So,
well, what's your take on that?
Let me just clarify. Oh, wait, before you do, I just want to clarify one thing. I know, when I said you have to pay, that's the way it is. I mean, I didn't necessarily mean, spend like drunk sailors again. I'm just saying you're going to have, well, I should rephrase and say you have to buy, because there's no one in the academy who can fill those slots right now. So you're going to the market. So that's what I was saying. You have to pay. I'm not saying I'm not saying spend 120 million on him. And I mean, it's all a crapshoot, but I'm not saying spend 120 million on him, on this player, or another 90 million on a would-be, could-be. No, but and I'm all for finding bargains. Anyway.
Yeah, Brian, honestly, I mean, we've spoken many times before as regards to Liverpool players and cost. And I mean, FSG are very shrewd, maybe a little bit tight with the money. But I would trust them this summer, because it's and his backroom team have done a lot of due diligence, I promise you. And I would certainly trust them. And as I say, if Fabinho, Hendo, or both of them go, and they replace them with Lavia and Colwell, I'd be quite happy with that.
Okay, well, what you said there, they're a little bit tight. You only got to look at that comment. We had no midfield last season. Is we and the club willing to let more go than we should allow to leave? Shows you their interest in squad investment. That's FSG talking about. And I think it's make or break for FSG with the fans this year.
Yeah.
Because they're allowing everybody to go. Okay, as you said, we got these two fine lads. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now the thing is, with the likes of these two players, I've got a great comment here, and it's good. Okay, and it's about what we're saying about Fabinho, to be honest. Now, it's only what I've said. Honestly, I think these two lads are brilliant. I really do. I've seen them play. And we have got bargains, no matter what, we paid for, I think it was 50 million for the Slobozai.
Yeah, the initial was 50 million, yeah.
Okay. Now, get on to this one. Get on to that. And I'm going to Dad first, okay? We were talking about this before. Fabinho with consistent partners in midfield could perhaps operate more freely. Chopping and changing those alongside him only undermines his efficiency. Can I just say before you answer, please out there, will you like? Just press like, please. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Let's get the algorithm up there because I have great guests like these here. I have great guests on a Tuesday. Just like, get the algorithm, please, and subscribe if you haven't. Cost nothing, and you can comment, and the lads will. It cost you nothing to comment, by the way. Cost you absolutely nothing, not like other pods. But this one, we will discuss your comments because you're all Reds, we're all Reds, and we like what you're saying or don't like what you're saying, but at least it'll be discussed. So what do you think of that, Jazz? You know, that for Stephen Snape one?
No, I mean, it's a good comment. I mean, fair play. Like, I always like his comments, by the way. He's a proper Red. As they would say on Twitter, he's a top Red.
No.
I hate that word. I think it's so stupid. Doesn't that, you got top Reds battling E-Reds. It's just
Yeah.
No, I mean, there is a player there in Fabinho. We've seen it. He did have drop off. When we won the league, he was terrible last season. We saw in the last 10 games of the season, there is a player still there, and if he has the engines around him. With the two new lads, which I think are absolutely amazing buys. I mean, we are looking to get Bellingham. Well, looking. I don't think we actually have the purse strings open, but to get these two players for 90 mil is outrageous. I mean, it really is. I mean, McAllister just feels like we stole from Brighton. We went in there and we picked him up at night and took him away. I mean, 35 mil for a World Cup winner is an absolute steal. But I think these two lads are going to invigorate Fabinho. If Fabinho stays, I think they'll invigorate him. But, my mate's just sending me, he's been texting me the last 5 minutes saying it looks like a deal's been done for Fabinho already. So I don't know if
that's gone.
If it is, then all you can say is, thanks for the memories. But I have every ounce of me trust in Klopp to get this transfer summer right. And as Keith alluded to, FSG have to get it right because the pitchforks will come out September 2nd if they don't.
Yeah, that's a good. What do you think? I'm going to bring in. There's the choir boy. He couldn't make it Tuesdays because he's in a choir. And there he is. This fella, brilliant. We've got the likes of Brian Fennell on, who's got a voice like Barry White. And we've got this fella, Phil Collins, who won the actual contest. It's brilliant. Look at you. Absolutely. Go, where's Brian? I'm sorry, Dad. Is Brian there?
I'm here.
Oh, yeah, it was about, Fabinho and consistent partners in midfield could perhaps operate more freely, right? This is what Stephen Snape said. Funny enough, me and, coincidentally, Daz and I were saying at the beginning of the pod that Fabinho played well, but he's gone now. He's gone, so it's not worth talking about him. We've got to talk about him.
Gone, Frank?
Yeah, he's been sold. Yeah.
Has he? Oh.
Yeah. Zaz has just got a message, through just a minute ago, and he said that he's gone. Where's Keith? Oh, there he is. There he is. as Charlie Wood says, my analogy, as you know, was painting 4 walls, but you're only painting 2. The other 2 need painting. And Charlie Wood says it's like building a house without a kitchen. That's a good point. So what do you think, Brian? Do you reckon that it's not worth talking about him now anyway, unfortunately?
What? Oh, you mean Fabinho and Hendo going?
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot younger, and as I said before, that's a big loss, and that's a lot of weight put on Badger's shoulders to develop quickly. I mean, he showed promise last season, but that's a lot. Even if they sign Lavia, it's a lot of weight on their shoulders to hold down the midfield.
Well, there's Paul Burke, and he said the last time we let so many senior pros go was when Souness was manager. We suffered for seasons after that. Yeah. So I remember him, you must remember, with Souness, when he let to Everton. Who did he let go? Peter Beardsley. He was brilliant for us. And when he went to Everton, he was brilliant for them. Big mistake. And he broke up the boot room as well.
That was a mistake.
I think it was. But anyway, let's see what Brian Headley has to say. So here we go again. 2 great signings, then left yet again with no bench. This is why I was hoping we could have kept Enzo, Fab, Thiago for just 1 season for the bench, along with any strikers, would be strong for sure. But back to square one. Few injuries, it's gone. And that's what I was talking to Steve Evans today, and he said we've only got to get an injury too. It's back to square one. It's just like, so I'll go to you. What do you think? I'm sorry. What do you think, Keith? I'm then I'm going over to Phil Collins there.
Yeah, I just think having such a young sort of depth of squad there. So you've got Jones, Elliott, who I'm actually not a big fan of Elliott. Bajcetic, then possibly Lavia, then Slobozai and McAllister. I think is he 23, 24?
23, yeah.
23.
Yeah, so that's quite young. You've got to have someone who is going to have that experience, haven't you? I mean, McAllister, okay, yeah, he's been in the Premier League, so he's had that really good season under his belt. Bajcetic, I thought, was an absolute revelation. I mean, was he 17, 18, just unbelievable. But again, at such a young age, Elliott, the injury he had at Leeds. Jones has had shin splints, and we know what the history of shin splints can do long term. So, yeah, that would be my fear as well, as if you let Hendo and Fabinho go, potentially Thiago. You've got young players there without that sort of midfield general, that general, that one that can, like a Millie or the experience. And with the injuries as well, the injury records of Jones, Elliott, and Bajcetic was out for the last 2-3 months with the abductor problem. So that is a worry. There was talk, I mean, I was listening to a podcast with the lads from Liverpool Echo, and there was talk about the lad from Southampton, Ward Prowse, but for me, no. He's not a Liverpool player. No. He's not a Liverpool player, so.
Definitely not a... It's... I see what Paul Burke said. What do you think about Henderson? And even Thiago might be going, but Henderson's gone. Now Fabinho's gone. And the lack of experience in the midfield. Do you know what who you've left out here? We've been talking about it. Curtis Jones.
Yeah, I said case insurance before. Unfortunately, he had the injury last season, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I'm going to put. I'll have to make sure my words are right. But within Kirby, behind the scenes, there was a lot of concerns about his attitude as well. So, hopefully, what he showed at the last back end of the season showed. The lad's got the talents. He's got to just keep his feet in the ground and have the right attitude.
Liam, what do you think about the experience?
We were saying last week, mainly, I was alluding to it last week, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were.
And it seems to have started to kind of like unravel, hasn't it? So there isn't 200 million. You know what I mean? There isn't 200 million like in the kitty and that. And the other thing is, and I said to you last week, is how much are they shaving off the wage bill? All the high earners, Fabinho, Firmino, Henderson, Thiago, they're saving about 50 million a year.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like with what I mean with like Milner going, Keita going, Oxlade-Chamberlain going, and that like type of thing. It must be nearly $1 million a week that they're saving. Must be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the thing is that we were already playing catch up because we was like, I think it was Chris Bascom or it was one of them today said that they were already going to bring a midfielder in, regardless of Henderson going or whatever. So if Henderson goes, Thiago goes, and Fabinho goes, where does that leave us?
This is what we've been discussing since since the start of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go straight to you, Brian. And Paul Burke not getting Thiago thing. He's not getting the Thiago thing. 1 goal, 2 assists in 62 games. Waste of space for me. Can I just say before you answer, please just like and get the algorithm out there. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. You can comment and everything. It doesn't cost you nothing to subscribe. And it certainly costs less to like. And let's get our algorithm out there. Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Okay, not getting Thiago. It's his experience. I'll go back to that. He's won Champions League. He has experience in the midfield, and and I think the intangibles and his knowledge. He's also played defensive mid. He can play that in a pinch, in the 2-man pivot. So I think we need to hold on to him. We can't let all of our senior leadership, our senior players go.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself. I get it. 1 goal, 2 assists, and he's injury prone, so he won't take a lot of playing time, but his presence will be there. Be a big factor.
Okay. What about you, Keith? I mean, Zaz, I'm sorry. Zaz, I'm awfully sorry. What do you think?
Sorry.
About Thiago, 1 goal, 2 assists in 62 games, and he's a waste of space for one of our big Reds there, Paul Bear.
I wouldn't call Thiago a waste of space.
I wouldn't.
He's an absolute baller. But again, how many games does he play a season? He's our luxury player. But, being his age, I mean, he's on, 200k a week as well. I mean, that's a lot of money for somebody that barely plays for us. And again, I don't think he'll start the season because he's still, recovering from the hip surgery. Like I said, out of all 3 of them, Fabinho, Thiago, and Hendo, I'd keep Fabinho. It's like it's madness because there's more news coming in now saying the Saudis have cooled their interest in Henderson because they want him on a free. So obviously, Klopp and FSG aren't going to let Endo go on a free. So that's more
I think it's,
rumour mill. Man, I feel like I'm on Twitterverse right now, telling you lot like it's just all my mates just keep messaging me going, oh, this. Look, he's not going. He is going. He's not going. I mean,
I think the thing is about Henderson. Forgive me for butting in, but I think the thing is about Henderson. He he's accepted the offer. So it means that he's not on board.
yeah.
He's like, he's had a word with Klopp, and Klopp says you reduce minutes. He can't come in exactly like thinking that like he's going to resume captaincy and everything's going to be hunky-dory. There's got to be a situation now where it has to be resolved because you can't flip and flop like, and Klopp won't have that. He won't have that. Klopp's
Well, he was getting
given the
called traitor today. People were coming on and saying he's a traitor. He's going to, the Arabs.
Well,
And he's
I'm
leaving
not-
up. This is what I'm saying about other
well, the
fans.
people.
Remember when Steven Gerrard was only thinking about, he thought that he was neglected after the 2005 European Cup.
Yeah, but he's going to Chelsea.
And he's, Chelsea, Mourinho really wanted him. And they started training
on the
to the street. And this is what our, excuse me, this is what our lads are like. This is what our fans, but some of them, we're not saying us. And I'll go over to Keith. What do you think about all this? About Thiago and, is he a waste of space for some of our fans? Because he's not the only one to say it, by the way.
I think with Thiago, those stats there, I think it's a waste of space. Yeah, I think his lack of goals and his lack of playing time is a concern. But the one thing that Thiago does do is he does open up teams, Yeah. So what he does is he creates assists from Trent, Robbo, and other players. So, he's not really there to create assists. He's there to unlock the defence, whether that's a wall of 4 or 5 in midfield or 4 and 5 in defence of whoever we're playing, especially at Anfield. He's there to unlock it, and his through balls I've seen loads of times to Mo and Trent and Robbo. I think personally, when he's fit and he's playing, he's great to watch, but it's the lack of playing time, isn't it? But one thing we were saying there before about with Hendo, if you like any of us here and anyone who's watching, if we're currently on £1,000 a week, let's say we're on £1,000 a week at work, and someone comes to you and says, I'll give you £5,000 a week, you're going to listen, aren't you? Doesn't matter what the job is, I suppose, in many ways, you're going to listen. And so for Henderson to receive £700,000 a week on a potential 3-year contract, that that is difficult to turn down, but there's no way FSG and Jurgen Klopp will let Henderson go on a free. Absolutely not a chance.
Tax free at that.
Go ahead, Brian. Carry on.
No, I was just saying. Fair play to Hendo if he does it. As you said, we on £1,000 a week, someone gives you $5,000. Guess what? You have my attention.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. We've all moved to other places for less money, for a change, or a better job, less money. Or I don't blame him for going. Nope. And what more can he do here? He's won everything.
Yeah.
So and he can still, and as England international, he can still win the Euros. He can still win the World Cup. So nothing more to prove here. So
not with England.
Go get yours.
Not with
He's
England.
got two bad feet as well, and I think his knees. Keith, I know you have the plantar fasciitis in both feet, but he's got a bad knee too. So yeah, go get your wage packet, and thank you for the memories.
Total legends in my eyes. Total legends.
What was you going to say?
And the disrespect I've
I'll
done.
get to you in a minute, Liam, please.
Sorry.
Chelsea was wanting to say something.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. What was you going to say, Daz?
Oh no! When Brian said, "Yeah, you know, Endo's could win the World Cup," I go, "No chance, not with England."
Well, a little hyperbole, but yeah.
He was only kidding.
Yeah.
Frank, the other thing to that was that if Henderson does go to Saudi Arabia, apparently, what's the England manager's name? Southgate has turned around and said that any player currently within the England setup won't play for England if he goes to Saudi Arabia.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's wrong, you know.
Reasons are?
It's like freedom of movement. We've stopped freedom of movement, and we have done for years, to be honest, not just now on freedom of speech, but freedom of movement, and I think it's wrong.
Yeah, I think
freedom of movement.
Sorry?
This is freedom of movement.
I can hardly walk now. Someone was saying, you know, about, you know, he's got his legs now and he's a bit tired. I can't even run for the bus. You know what I mean? But is it, lads, please let me get a few comments here. A few comments. Just let me say them, okay? I've gone back again. I'm sorry about that. And Neil Broderick actually says Endo didn't score goals.
He used to. He could. But his game's changed.
Yeah,
his
well,
foot injuries.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? You know, it's like what you just said. He used to, and he has scored some crackers, you know. And one of the best balls that I've ever seen, besides Mane, that's Salah that scored against United, was also against United, and it was also for Salah, and that was Henderson's ball when he rubbed the ball off Pogba. And he bent it around, right around. He curved the ball right up to that. He should be doing that. He should have been doing that for years.
Yeah,
for years. Okay, Stephen Snape, and I'm going to go to you, Liam, first. Okay. While the environment might be different, the manager's ethos remains the same. Personally, I think they wouldn't consider letting the older players leave without preparing to replace them. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think Jamie Carragher alluded to it this morning, didn't he? He said if they go, they've got two players lined up. But the thing is that you've got to have a ready-made six or a ready-made starter to like kind of hit the ground running within pre-season and within the Chelsea game.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can't just have Lavia coming in and then like, you know, Thuram or whatever with, you know, they've got great potential or whatever, but we need someone who's ready-made. You know, what you thought of Fabinho or whatever, people were saying that he's lost his legs. He was terrible last year, wasn't he? But, you know, people were saying, like, you know, he's coming back pre-season and whatever. Seems as though, you know, his head's being turned. And, you know, what your man said there, you know, if you're offered $5,000 and you're on £1,000, then, you know, fair play. I've got no bad feeling, ill feeling towards Jordan Henderson whatsoever. He's a legend in my eyes. Absolute legend. On and off the pitch as well. And here's another one. You know, who was the better captain? Steven Gerrard or Jordan Henderson of what he's done and achieved over them years? You know, I think Jordan Henderson's been amazing for us. He has, like, kind of petered out of injuries and whatever. Should we give him the new contract? I don't know. It's debatable and whatever. But I've got nothing but good wishes for Jordan Henderson. Nothing but good wishes. And the lack of respect, Frank, you go on Twitter and all that, is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. You know, the people who go to the match, and, you know, they might kind of say, oh, yeah, he's one of them and all that, like, type of thing, but they've got respect for Jordan Henderson because of what he's done and what he's achieved and what he's brought to the whole of the team as a captain and as a man and the way he's like brought the unity within the group as well.
Okay. I'll go to Daz here, and I'm going to you, Keith, but I want you to answer this, all of you. Soulboy Fran, if Henderson and Firmino do go, do you think they might go back in for Thuram or Kone, or both?
Well, Kone's injured, isn't he?
But it's not apparently it's not as serious as people first thought. That's the message coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know too much about Kone or Thuram, to be honest.
Okay.
You know, they came out of nowhere. You know, obviously you do the YouTube, put in and watch them for 5 minutes. I mean, they seem like good lads. You know, again, talent, but are they proven? No, they're not. And again, I'll keep saying it. If Fabinho is leaving, we need a top number 6.
Yeah, totally.
That's it.
Who would you go for then, Zaz? Who would you go for?
Casado.
Yeah, me too.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, but that I was going to ask you, who would you go for? You saw Casado, yeah.
The thing about Casado, though, is he can also play right back.
Yeah.
So, you could do the double pivot, Trent, and then Casado moves to the right. But, yeah, I mean, Casado's the number 1 pick. But, again, Brighton don't need to sell on the cheap. He looks like he's probably Chelsea bound, I mean, Declan Rice would have been a really good one as well.
Yeah.
I think between the top defensive, Premier League, it's Casado or Rice, and Rice obviously.
I wanted Rice, but
he's signed on the dotted line for Arsenal. Still not over the line, which boggles my mind.
Really?
Yeah, he's not signed. West Ham are pretty pissed off. The contract is not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. No.
Yeah, it's quite bizarre. Yeah, I was reading it yesterday. It's not been signed, and I just don't understand that. I mean, that's a player that you want, and they've paid this vast amount of money for. You want him to sign as quickly as possible. But yeah, the West Ham were not happy. But to go back, yeah, those 2 lads are good. Talent-wise, good. They're one for the future. But, this team, if Fabinho leaves, we need a proper number 6 that's got Premier League experience.
Okay. No, I'm going to Keith here. Replacing, it's only what we're saying, actually. Replacing Fabinho with inexperienced youngsters or youngster would be suicidal. That says McAllister has league experience, and the Hungarians, see the way they don't say his name. Someone's like, it's great, isn't it? The Hungarian, by all accounts, really is some player. We need at least 1 more, Keith.
Yeah, Caicedo for me. Absolutely hands down, honestly. That lad he reminds me of Kante when he was in his prime at Leicester and Chelsea. So yeah, definitely Caicedo. And I'd go for, look, I think Lavia, for me, he's just played 50 games, just over 50 games Southampton in the Premier League. He was a starter for Southampton. Ran the show at Old Trafford, by the way, for Southampton at one point. And so, you could go and get a Thuram or a Kone, but that's all on promise. I mean, we got our fingers burnt, didn't we, in the past with some players who've got promise, like a Bruno Shea, the next Zidane, and things like that, and pay top dollar for. It was the lads who came, Aquilani, letting someone like Alonso go and replace him with Aquilani, who was injured, and that, so. But for me, Thuram, Kone, yeah, they might have promise, but they've not had the experience of the Premier League like Caicedo and Lavia had full season at Southampton, and one played with the air for them. So for me, You know, if let's say Hendo and Fabinho go, I would be looking at them two. And just from what you were saying there before, Daz, as regards to Declan Rice, it's what's it called? The agent fees. That's what the big problem is. Someone within the Athletic had told me that it's down to agent fees. That's the big stumbling block.
That's nuts, that, isn't it? Really. But you know, like, what do you think, Brian? You know, I'll reread this particular comment. I think it's a very good comment. Replacing Fabinho with an inexperienced youngster would be suicidal. That said, McAllister has league experience, and Sulabozai, by all accounts, really is some player. We need at least one more. What's your take on that?
I'd say two more. I mean, we've talked before. I don't agree with throwing the youngsters to the wolves, but I see what he wants to do as far as midfield by committee. But no, I agree with everything being said here. If you're going to replace these players, at least have one seasoned veteran, seasoned player to step in. If Caicedo's in play, then yes, absolutely. That's a no-brainer. So yeah, again, I'd say him and Lavia. Get them both. Because Badger can play an 8 as well, play a higher up. So but I think more defensively first. I'd say you got Lavia and if Caicedo's there, great. If not, then I'd go to Chomeni. So that's my thought.
I think that's a very good point. What's your take, Liam?
I wouldn't rule out Tchouaméni from Real Madrid. They went all out, didn't they, last year for him?
Yeah.
And there's some stuff coming out about this, like
Valverde.
Oh, Valverde's with him, isn't he? But what it'd be one or the other. But I do believe that, like, you know, the microscope's under or over in Real Madrid, over the FFP now, over this 122 million, which sounds like the Bellingham, and that they're under like the microscope. So they might have to sell because of FFP or whatever. But I agree there, you need an experienced 6. You know, you can't get rid of Fabinho and Endo in one fell swoop when we already needed a midfielder and we're going in blinds. I'm sure Klopp, you know, maybe Kimmich or something from Bayern, I don't know. You know what I mean? It could be. But there's got to be an experience. There has to be an experience for me. Going for Lavia, potential, great, and all that. And they're going for Carlyle as well, by all accounts, as well, aren't they? You know, so lots of change, isn't it? Just lots of change. I just hope that it's not like, I think it's not revolution instead of evolution. Because as you said, we remember the Souness years, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, it really broke us up, especially with Beardsley going, because Beardsley was pivotal for us. Yeah. He really was. I can't pronounce his second name, but it's Ian Mack. Obviously, he's Irish. They should have enough. It's like a Slobozlai, isn't it? You can't pronounce some of these names. I'm going straight to you, Daz. They should have enough now to shop at the top market instead of bargain basement. What's your take?
Yeah, should, could, won't.
Yeah.
That's been one of the problems, hasn't it? You know.
Yeah.
We're just lagging behind. You know, City will keep spending, Newcastle will keep spending, United will spend, Arsenal have spent, you know, over 200 million. For me, though, I think we smart buy, and I'm all right with that, to be honest. Again, McAllister for 35 and big old Slobbo for 55, 60 million. Like, that's unheard of, and that's because of the scouting team. So
But then again, I think what Ian Mack's saying is, there's Casido there, and he's saying we've got the money and we should be shopping for the likes of them.
No, I agree with that.
Vivaldi, him as well, and Soumeni, we should be saying, well, all right, he had us the money, give us them. This is what the lads are saying.
Well, we're like a big club that screams poor. We don't spend like big clubs do. But, I mean, again, Klopp normally, if he wants a player, we usually get that player. I mean, Nunes, we have the money, we spent that money. We also were going in for Tchouaméni, so we had that money. We just chose not to go in for another midfielder and ended up with, Melo, which was a disaster. Again, we've all said it. This is the summer where FSG and Klopp have to get it right.
Yeah. What's your take, Keith?
Well, one thing's for sure, we're not ever going to have any problems with FFP, are we? We haven't got no worries like Everton have. And it galls me, when you see likes of Arsenal now spending all this money, when you've had Man City, Man United, now Newcastle, Chelsea, Spurs to a point, and there's us, who's the most successful club in English football, lagging behind. Now, I was going to put a question to you all, or an opinion, that if Hendo and Fabinho are sold, and let's say we get a fee for them, would you be happy if we brought in Carlyle, Lavia and Caicedo as their replacements? Because I would.
100%.
Yes, absolutely.
100%. Yeah, that would be a 10 out of 10 window for me.
Yeah. I honestly think that if we could bring those three in to replace Hendo and Fabinho, because what you've also got to remember is, when he was fit, Keita, Milner, and Oxlade-Chamberlain, when he was fit, before he had his injury problems, all scored goals from midfield. Thiago, Hendo, and Fabinho aren't goal scorers. But what we've replaced Keita, Milner, and Ox with is McAllister and Slobozai, who do score goals from midfield. So get in Caicedo, probably the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League. Bring someone through with the likes of Lavia. Curtis Johnson scored goals, hopefully stays fit. Elliott, not sure. By Sesic, I think they've got plans for him to be a defensive midfielder, so that's where they potentially could let the likes of Fabinho go, because they look at Bicesic possibly being his replacement, because he was originally a centre half, that lad.
Mm-hmm.
And bring Carlyle in, because Carlyle is left-footed. Now, Big Verge is right-footed, isn't he? But he always plays on the left. So, you could bring that lad in, being left-footed, plays on the left side of central defence, and play him alongside Virgil van Dijk to go. He could go on the right. Or potentially, if you look at, because it wasn't his greatest season last season, he's 32, I think now, Virgil. I think he's 32, 33. He's coming to the end of his career, so bringing this lad in could be, his replacements eventually as well. So, yeah, Fabinho, Hendo, go. Bring in potentially Caicedo, Lavia, and Carlyle in. I'd be more than happy with that. And that we still won't have spent as much as the likes of certainly Arsenal anyway.
Oh, absolutely. That would be a coup.
But what about
what
this?
Do you know, Keith? Is that Easter egg you're planting? Is that what do you know?
What about this comment from Ian Goldsworth? And he comes on the show, and Zaz knows, and we all know, evening lads, what's going on? If we lose these two players plus Milner and go with a completely new midfield, how quickly will they get Jurgen's system and ideas?
That's the number one. That's the number one
Anyone.
question, isn't it? That's the number one question. Will they get it quickly? I mean,
Yeah.
it took Fabinho 6 months to be bedded in.
Yeah.
So
Robert.
again, you've got to hit the ground running because it's a month before we play Chelsea. It's not too much time to learn tactics and everything, but obviously Klopp brought these two players in, so he believes in them, and if he believes in them, I believe in them. So yeah, I think they'll hit the ground running. I do.
Okay.
Well, he got them in. He got those players in early, which is thank you. So yeah, so I'm sure they're learning as they go now. I mean, defensive mid, that's sort of, I won't say it's easy, but it's easier than the other two spots. So we just don't let anything pass you. Don't let them get that past you. So like you said, I trust. I mean, I love that they got those two in early to learn to pick up the system, and that'll help a lot as far as hitting the ground running. Defensive mid, okay, we still have some time. It was Caicedo. Thanks, Keith. It was Caicedo. Just do the same thing you did at Brighton. There's McAllister. So, yeah, I really hope that comes to fruition.
See, you've got fans now, supporters and commenting. Now, Charlie Wood says you can't blame Henderson, for going for the money. He's coming to the end of his playing days, and that's the point as well. That's the big point. I don't know. It's Saudi offers 6 camels for Enzo. Klopp is seriously considered. I've got more chance of silverware with England than Henderson, says Stephen Snake. These things. Sorry, Frank and lads. Blue Nose Boss caught what's that? I don't know. Again, back to work. I go great. Oh yeah, his boss has caught him. He sneaks in and this. Get off that. He's a blue nose, he says, and he gets him off anyway. So I like Paul, mate. Good to see you, and thanks for you. Neil Broderick says, Casino, a brilliant tackling midfielder. I'd love him. I've said this all along. What do you think, Keith?
Yeah, I just think Caicedo would be ideal. He's saying before he's a bit like Kante, and the way he covers that back four. I just think he'd be ideal, but he's going to come at a price. But again, I think he's 23. Is he 22, 23, Caicedo? I just think he's that type of player that FSG would love. He fits into that category, doesn't he, of what they want, the age and that. But there was another player there before I was going to say to you, is that he's just been sold for 20 million from Chelsea, who I know Klopp absolutely loves, and he always scored against us, and I thought he would be ideal for us as a bit like a Mason Mount, type of player. Pulisic.
Yeah.
That's a steal. 20 million for them, I think, is an absolute bargain. I'd love him. Honestly, I think it'd be brilliant.
Well, Klopp wanted him, didn't he, before he went to Chelsea?
Yeah.
And again, there's no money for us.
Yeah, and it also heightens the profile of the club in America, because he's America's captain, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, and I think he's 25, 26 still. It's no brainer for me.
26. I think he's 26. Yeah. I don't follow the U.S. team, so yeah, I'll look it up.
I want you to. All right, now we know that Milner's gone, and I really think that the other fella will go. I think they'll cough up the 10 million that Liverpool wants, for Henderson. And don't forget, he's already said he wants to go. So even if he doesn't, my take is take the captain's armbands off him, because you can't do that. So you need. Okay, Lee Brady, I think Virgil will be captain. I know he's always off injured for a long period, but he is usually one of the first names on the team sheet, which is what a captain should be. Trent, vice Yeah. Advice for me, to learn the ropes of a future captain, being more vocal, etc. I've said that all along, and I actually posted the very same, about Captain Virgil and Vice Captain Trent. And I'm going to go to Brian. What do you think?
Agreed.
Who should be captain and vice captain?
Virgil captain, if he wants it. Yep, it's his. Vice captain. Yeah, why not Trent? If Salah doesn't want it. Yeah.
Scouser. What do you think, Dad?
Vice captain for me is Robbo, and then Virgil captain. Trent's still only 24. He's got years with us. I just like how Robbo vocalizes, screams at teammates. He's the driving force. But yeah, I mean, Virgil's a vice captain, so you would think he'd go to captain. But yeah, I don't think. I think Chen can wait a few more years.
What do you think, Liam?
I think does it on, or how long the players have been there, or whatever. I don't know, but like, would Salah be in there? I don't know. I said this last week, didn't I? I think this is Salah's last season. Saudi will absolutely throw the rubles or whatever at Salah. I don't think he'll go this year because he's hungry and he wants to prove himself. But I think Salah, is going to be his last season. But I would love Trent. Definitely think Virgil. Definitely, he deserves it. And Trent, Steven Gerrard was how old is he when he took it off at Ipia?
20. 20
was he?
20 years of age.
Captain.
He's just turned 20, just come from 19, and he took us off Sami Hyypiä.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Satisfied with that. And look what kind of a captain he became.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He just got nothing to do with it, has he?
No, it certainly hasn't. And I didn't realise that he was going to Russia. For all them rubles. You've been throwing them at
him.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we're not ruble. What is it in Saudi Arabia? I don't know.
Money.
Politically correct.
Money. So I only know it's
whatever they want.
I don't know the denomination, unfortunately. All right, Keith, what's your take on captain and vice?
Big Virg and Robbo. Yeah, me and Daz have been pretty sort of consistent with each other tonight. Like, I personally wouldn't give it to Trent because the game against Napoli sticks in my head last season with Trent. Because to see, for someone who's got potential to be even a vice captain, I've seen Trent, I think we've all seen Trent, certainly over the last season, to the point where he gave up, but he didn't put enough effort in. To run back at someone with potential captain or vice captaincy doesn't do that. And I think Robbo, for me, Robbo was one of them where he'd get in your face. That's what you need the captain to be, have that respect of the other players. Whether Trent's got that, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't have Trent if it was me personally.
Okay. That surprised me actually, because I've always believed a Scouser, leading a team, and as I've said all along, this is just my opinion, by the way, that Trent should be vice captain and the Big Virg captain. He's got to be captain. And people say, people have said Robertson, by the way, because he's captain of his Scotland team.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And Stephen Smith
is captain of Hungary, isn't he?
Frank, I was just going to say to you, the new lad, Sobozai, is captain of Hungary, 22. And for me, what you're saying about Scouts as being captain, and I agree with that. If you go through the history of, Tomo, Steven Gerrard, even Jimmy Case did at times, didn't he?
Yeah.
And that. But I think with the captain as well, you've got to have that respect of your teammates. You've got to be someone your teammates know they can look up to you, and when the going gets tough, they know the captain's going to be the forefront. Steven Gerrard was that, and so Hendo's been the same. I think Verge would be the same. But for me, of all the players I've done, and there's no disputing the talents of Trent, but is he someone that the players think that he would run through a brick wall and have the respect of the rest of the team, despite him being I mean, we all love it to be a Scouser, but it all comes down to whether he's got the respect of the other players, and I'm not quite sure if Trent's got that.
Okay, I think that's a good point. Brad Ridley says, to be competing with City, to be competing with City and keeping up with them was always going to be tough. But to let the likes of Arsenal and United beat us in the league last year was downright miserable and should never have happened. That's what he said. See, lots of people, they're made up. I wasn't when, we're in the Europa League. All right, we're in the Europa League and that's about it. But when we lost out on the Champions League, loads of fans were saying we've got something to look back on. And what they were looking back on was the 7-0 clashing of Man U. I'd rather have finished in the top 4 than beat Manchester United 7-0. And that's the problem with some of our lads. What about, excuse me, I've got a little chest infection. FFP investigating Liverpool for underspending. Oh, great. Couldn't agree more with Keith. They'd be stellar replacements. There you go. He's talking about the captaincy there, by the way.
No, you missed it, Frank, when you were on holiday for like 5 minutes. So Keith had said the 3 players that could come in, and with Hendo, Fabinho, and
Okay.
so he had Colwill, Caicedo, and Lavia. Would be a 10 out of 10 for me as well.
I don't want Lavia. That's this is about opinions. I don't want Lavia. I really don't. I think he's too young to be thrown into the deep end. We've got Batatic, who's a better player. Lots of people have been saying Batatic is a better player than Lavia. So we've got him. We've got that young Batatic. I think it'll be better spent on another player, a more experienced player, if I'm being honest.
Well, no, that's why we said Caicedo. He's a top player. He's a DM, so he can do that. And then,
well, there's your thing there, Charlie Woods. Caicedo wanted to come to Liverpool last year, so why not? This year as well.
Yeah, but he also wanted to come to Arsenal as well. Like he was a bit.
No matter how you look at it, Jazz, no matter how you look at it, it's all down to spending and investment. Because if we paid the money, people are saying, "Oh, he's not worth that much." Yeah, well, that's fine, but we'd have him, and at least we know that the owners, as you said, this is a make or break for the owners. I've said it as well this summer, because last summer was an absolute disgrace. All right, we brought Nunes, we brought in the young lad Ramsey, right? Ramsey injured. He got injured. He never played. It was just awful. Well, who else did we bring in? Carlyle. He never hardly got a game. And now he's gone to Leipzig. I don't know. It's got to be a much better. That's in my opinion, anyway. Okay.
FSG are the only ones who could spin it. That we had 200 million to spend, and ends up with 5 midfielders going, getting 50 million off the wage bill and still not spending.
No. And that's the major problem and the major issue. It's not a problem, it's an issue. Because if this doesn't go right for us in the next few weeks, now I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to go straight to Brian, then down to Keith, then across to Liam, and up to Taz. And here's the title of the show. Are we back for top 4, Brian?
No.
All right, then. Go ahead, Keith.
Get the right signings. I think we can push for the league.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Liam?
I agree. Just get the right signings, and we've got the right firepower. Just needs the strengthening in defence as well. Another centre back. Get that midfield sorted. Another 2. If they're going Fabinho and Henderson, bring top replacements in. I think we challenge for the league, Frank, easily.
Okay, well, that's true for the league.
Okay.
What do you think, Taz?
Yeah, get the right players in, and I think we'll challenge. Plus, the fire's in the belly, I think, again, because last season was a disaster.
Well, I think he's have cheated me on the title. It's all like saying if we get the right players in. The title, what we've got now. Are we back for the top 4? And we've only got 2 players, haven't we?
Yeah, no. I mean, we need at least 2-3 more players, to challenge. So if you're asking me, if I look at that squad now, can we challenge for the title? I'll tell you no.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I just want to mention these wonderful people, right? And it's these fantastic books, people. And if you haven't read them or seen them or whatever, Keith Salmon, they are, we had dreams and songs to sing. I think that's an absolute brilliant title of a song. Okay, well, a book. I'm sorry, not a song. But how do you think, if you like, how do you think that? And I'm coming back with another question after these lads. How do you think that we'd fare with only 2 players? Bear that in mind. With those 2 players, we'd only fare, and we bring in youngsters, and as someone said before, I think that Irish lad, we should be going in for the the massive players because we've got the money in reality, and we shouldn't be bargain basements all the time. And there's another fantastic book, and even Jurgen Klopp, he's forwarded a fantastic book written by a true LFC legend. That's Jurgen Klopp saying about the voice of Anfield, George Sefton. And we know him, don't we, Keith?
Yeah, we do.
The
Lost Shankly boy, George Scott. And this was he has a ghostwriter, Jeff Goulding. Jeff's absolutely brilliant. And this is a great book as well, absolutely brilliant. And he's on he's a regular on my Tuesday show, by the way, podcast. So that's George. Reds Odyssey, we conquered all of Europe. I love that title as well. It makes you want to sing it, doesn't it? We conquered all of Europe. Champions, under lockdown, Stanley Park across the that's another one. And the Untouchables, I think that's absolutely brilliant. And the social one. And this is by Marios Manzos. And Marios Manzos is a true Red. He lives and works in Greece. He's a journalist besides being an author. And he's a true Red. And And if you think about it, the social one, why Jurgen Klopp was a perfect fit for Liverpool, because this is a socialist city, as you know. And I just love I just love it. And also, I've got to mention these, and it's Michael and Michelle Dean. And if you want any good stuff, all Liverpool, it's all Liverpool. Just like this one here. Got that going to Madrid, That's the Atletico badge, but it's got the birds on. It's got our birds on. And they sell brilliant stuff, great reasonable prices. And they're open on match days only, but you can get whatever it is, go online, have a look at the material, the merchandise. Hat scarf or a badge.com. Just do it. They're brilliant, honestly. You won't be disappointed. You really won't. And that's that, Okay. Right. So what was my question? If we only had these two lads and no more coming in, it's easily done, by the way. And another spin could come out and say, well, we haven't got the right players. We were looking at him, but we'll have a look at him next season. So what's the score now? And I'm going straight to you, Liam. Right to you, Liam.
But you're being hypothetical, aren't you? Because we know it's not going to be just two players, don't we? So, I'm excited by McAllister. I'm excited by Szoboszlai. I don't believe it's the end of the spending, but I do believe it is about kind of. And here's the thing as well. Remember when Klopp said, I'm loyal, but I'm not too loyal.
Oh, he said that about but he said that about Milner and Henderson, I think, because he was getting criticised, wasn't he? And I criticised him for it because it's been mentioned on this pod before. There was to get Milner on, for 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
He brought Trent off one game, and Trent's face was thunder and lightning. It really was. When he went on, and he left, and loads of games he left young Cavallo on the bench, and to bring Milner on to do nothing, and that's the problem. And that's
what I'm saying is, he said this is what I'm saying is that he said he was loyal, but he's not too loyal, and I think that you're starting to see maybe another side. That, by all accounts, he's had a meeting with Jordan Henderson today. And said to him, it's going to be reduced minutes. You're not going to be on the pecking order. You're going to be a little bit further down. And that now, if the Klopp is doing that, but with the view of bringing in replacements, I don't know how much money we've got, and I don't know how much money like FSG are going to give him. I don't know. Have we got a sell to buy? I don't know.
We are, aren't we? We're trying to sell, young Nat Phillips. We're selling, Fabinho now. Yeah. We want money for Henderson.
Yeah.
So there's your sell to buy. They've never got rid of that model.
Yeah.
And I'm going I'm going over to Brian. Brian, if we only had these two lads, and it is possible that as you know, that we wouldn't get any more. If no one's going to buy anybody, what would we be like in in the league with the least experience for their Klopp's system? Could it destroy us? Not destroy us completely, but we'd struggle for it season two.
But destroy just enough. Sorry, that was my answer to the last question. Was this team ready to compete for the top four? No, we're not ready. But yeah, I agree with everyone says, the right players. But with these two, no. We'll be Europa again.
This is it, isn't it? It's just, what do you think, Taz? If you just had those two? What was that?
I said it. You know, we need a couple more players to challenge. I mean, you know, your heart says we can challenge, but then your brain says no. You know, when you really look at it.
That's a good thing, you know, because you know our head, you know, it rules, doesn't it? And when we're doing something and we're doing something right, the heart comes then, you know, the heartbeat's there. But that's the unfortunate thing about this coming season. If nothing is there, only these two lads. Say, I reckon we need another 4 players. A left-sided centre back, 2 midfielders. I'm not just saying that, by the way. I'm not just saying that. And a right back. That's me. That's my opinion. But I don't see. I only see there could be another 2 players coming in. What do you think, Keith?
With the players that we've got now, if there was no one else added, I'm always the optimist. I'd say top 4. Definitely not the league title. Because the others now, we're catching up to the others in terms of spending, aren't we? Newcastle, Arsenal. Chelsea will be more of a threat next season.
Yeah, of course we will.
You know, I think some of the players they signed, I like that. Mudryk. I think he's brilliant player, and so I think they'll be more of a threat as well. So, optimist, yeah, top 4, definitely not for the league title, but we all know, and I think Klopp knows, and the club knows that we need other players coming in. You know, and I think we'll definitely see at least 2 new players in. I definitely think that. In terms of right, I'm agree with you.
Okay, but who would you like to see? You know, you say like. I think we'll go for 2 more players. I think they will come in. Who would you like to go for? Who would you like to see come in?
So Caicedo from Brighton. I personally would like to see Lavia from Southampton.
Lavia, yeah, Southampton.
And Carlyle from Chelsea. I actually like the lads who we had from Aberdeen, the right back, Ramsey last season. He had the same problem as what Steven Gerrard had when he was 18, 19, and it was the growth issue. So it was his spine and his pelvis. So it was having problems with that. He's gone to. I'm trying to think where he's gone on loan to.
Yeah, he's gone on loan, hasn't he?
Preston North End. Yeah, it's Brian Lowe's taking him in. So interesting to see how he'll do. But Klopp's a massive fan of Conor Bradley. You know.
I know he is.
And I think he'll give him possibly more time next season as cover for Trent, and I think you'll probably see him more in sort of the cup competitions in the Europa League.
Yeah, and it's sad, isn't it? You know that we're pulling our arse out, head out, and you know, thinking that, you know, is this going to be it? But I don't think so. I think we will bring in, and well, we'll have to. There's no ifs or buts. We have to. Yeah. But I really need, or we really need, and this is what I hope, that we get experience rather than potential.
Frank, just for the 4 of us here, or for you 3, if there was someone now that you would bring in with experience, so take away Caicedo, Lavia in terms of midfield, what player would you bring in? Now, there's one player I would love. The other player I'd love to see was the lad at Tottenham, Son Heung-min.
Okay, yeah.
Son.
How old is he? He's about 30, isn't he?
30. He's 30. I'd love to see him personally, but he's not a midfielder as such as he. But if there was a midfielder there that you would bring in with the experience, mid-20s, going on to sort of late 20s, who would you bring in?
Who was I bringing in? I was all up the Rice, and he hasn't signed yet. As Daz said, he hasn't signed. He hasn't signed on the dotted line, so why not bring him in? I'd love to see him at Liverpool. I really would. And he's a homegrown player as well.
Yeah.
This is what we've got to be careful of.
Liverpool are not going to spend 100 million on
No. I was asked a question. But we have got 100 million. I don't care what anyone says. We have.
But we won't do it, though, will we?
No, of course they won't. Of course they won't. A combative midfielder, ideally Casido and some defensive cover, and we could give a top 4 a rattle. Personally, I think the league's a bit too big of a stretch at the moment, but top 4 realistic. That's a good shout. And this Brian Edley says McGinn from Villa.
Yeah. The other one as well, Frank, and I think he might be leaving Tottenham, is Oldberg.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
He can play that Henderson role. Do you know what I mean? Good player.
No chance, 6th at best. That's what Neil Broderick says. That's what he says. I've always said I have loved to have seen Sam Maximin from Newcastle. Did you like the way my French just flows out there? It's another tongue twister, isn't it? From Newcastle, or that left winger from Brighton, the Chinese lad. Two good players there. Maybe Sam is more injury prone though now. Who was that lad? That
Matimo.
Yeah.
Saint Maximin, though, he's hit and miss.
Oh yeah, I don't really think.
I mean, he could barely get in the Newcastle team.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what though, could you honestly see someone pulling on the shirt of Liverpool with bandages round his hands and round his knees and round his head? Honestly, God, when I see him going on, I think he's going to go and play Twickenham. Honestly, when I see him.
But he always seems to play against us, and as Del says, he's in and out of the Newcastle side, but every time he plays against us, he's always, when we play Newcastle, he always seems to be playing against us.
Yeah.
That's a crack, isn't it? Yeah, and these are good lads, These are good lads. The way we played last 11 games unbeaten, with the new players we have brought in, I think defo top 4. But you had the likes of Fabinho playing. He's gone, didn't he? In the last 11 games, you had the likes of Henderson playing. He's gone.
Does he go for, Frank?
Well,
how much has he gone for?
Henderson 10 million.
No, how much is Fabinho gone
40. 40. What we bought him for? That's a good deal, that. That's an excellent
Just got 400 grand off the wage bill.
Yeah. And Neil Broderick says Minto and Sam Maximin would be a downgrade. Okay.
Really?
That's what he says. And, some of our lads, our fans, who care about the lads at Newcastle has no work ethic. He'd be quicker chasing back if he had lost the ball. That's a good point, that actually, because that's what we need. Don't we? Someone chasing back. Mane did it constantly. Always Michael Dean. Liverpool will finish 114 points and win the league on goal difference. Come on, Red Man, a bit of confidence in Jurgen's new team. Nunes will be a threat this season. Michael, you just stole me tongues out, because I was going to ask every one of them, starting with Taz. Do you think Nunes will be hitting the ground running?
I think Nunes will come good. I mean, I laugh at some of the people that called him a flop last season. Scored 15 goals. And anybody, he was brought. I think if he was brought in at a time when Haaland wasn't brought in, that we'd be talking maybe a little bit different about him. But because both of them come in, Haaland's a robot, a cyborg, and just blew open the goalposts. And I think Nunes didn't help himself, did he? Get sent off against Palace, and he looks like he's learned a few more Scouse words, which helps. It'll help him. I'm just trying to figure out where we're going to put him, to be honest, because Gakpo's been, came in and played really well. So I mean, for my starting lineup against Chelsea for the front, he will be Diaz, Gakpo, and Mo. I'm
glad you said though that Nunes has learned some Scouse words. Can you imagine him going, "Areg, oh my God, go ahead." What a coach! Oh my God, behave yourself. They're great words. Neil Broderick, and this is the point. It's unbelievable to think 18 months ago these players who are leaving almost done the impossible. Let that sink in. How about that?
Yeah.
And as Lee Brady says, thanks for another good. See you on Monday.
They've been great servants for the club. They've been absolutely fantastic players for the club.
Yeah. I've got to answer Lee Brady here because he's talking about, I do an ordinary show, not football. And he said, what's plans for next week? Well, I've got Derek Shelmerdine on, Lee, who's a fantastic. He's written an encyclopedia, that pick. I can't find it. It's up there somewhere. And it's called Rock and Roll Unraveled. And it's got everything in it from everybody, even going back to the 50s, like Elvis and even Sinatra, and right up to the Beatles, obviously, and right up to the present day. Right up. And he's talking about Steve Marriott, but that's in the first hour. The second hour is me prattling on about the history of Liverpool. And I don't mean the history of LFC. So, that's what I've got. That's what I've got. And thank you so much for asking. There's a player in Darwin Nunes, watch him, and Gakpo specifically. That's great. Been brill, lads. Thank you. That's great, that. Up the Reds. He's got an F in there as well, but I can't swear because I'll leave him sitting on the couch. Nunes' quality with the first season and being injured too, and still scored 15 goals and a few assists. That's really good. One player who will be a beast, I think, is Gakpo, says Lee Brady.
Yeah.
So there you go. And what's this? Can Derek play right back, mate? Derek. Great show again. So, I'm going to ask for a prediction, before next week. This time next week when you're on again, right? Do you think, and I'm going straight to you, Daz, straight to you, and then Keith, and then Brian, and then Liam. Yeah, there's one before there. And we have forgot this fella. Jota the Slaughter, says Lee Brady. Okay. Do you think by this time next week we'll have, this is to use us, we'll have new players? Player, brackets, players. So do you reckon we will? And how many do you reckon if you will?
By next week.
By this time next week when you're on, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll have at least one new player by next week.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't know who. I just
Who's your life?
Well, I mean, the closest one you would think that we've been really linked with is Lavia.
Yeah.
So I would think he's the one that's coming in if by reports, Fabinho is gone. I mean, there has got to have been some talk beforehand, that we have players back up. And I would think Lavia, who's the one that's like Paul Joyce and Romano have been touting that we're in for. So, yeah, I would think if Fabinho's gone. I mean, I would have thought he was coming in anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It looks like that, didn't it?
Yeah. So I would say Lavia in the next week.
Okay. Over to you, kid, because you want Lavia in, don't you? Well,
Yeah.
how many plays do you reckon by this time next week?
Personally, one. I think Lavia. I think Carlyle has just won the championship, so he's gone on holiday now. So he won't want to. He'll be leaving things to his agent. The only stumbling block with him, of course, is the if Chelsea are willing to sell, what the fee will be. And I know that there's other teams. I mean, I know Brighton have come in and they offered 40 million as starters. But if that lad's got any ambition, he's not going to choose Brighton over Liverpool, is he? So, and by all accounts, from what I was told, actually works for the Echo, but is actually an Evertonian. That's Liverpool's his preferred destination for Carlyle, and he's close with Jones and Elliott in the squad as well. So yeah, I'd like to see Lavia, and look, we'd love to have Caicedo there or someone else will move someone similar. But I think Carlyle will eventually join us, but at a later date, because Jurgen and Klopp likes them to have the pre-season together, doesn't he? Ideally, we're going to Germany soon, and then we're going to Far East, aren't we? Playing Leicester. And who else?
Munich.
Munich. Is that in
Singapore? Yeah.
Singapore, yeah.
All right. Excuse me. Up to you, Ryan.
Gosh, if Caicedo was in play, I'd love to get him in. But no, I agree. Lavia, he'll be the next one.
So this time next week, the question is, this time next week, do you think we'll be sitting here discussing the likes of Lavia or Caicedo or Valverde?
Yes.
Or any of them, if there are players coming in?
I think so.
Okay, so you just think so. And Liam, do you think this time next week we'll be discussing new players?
I think we'll be discussing one midfielder. I don't know who it was because Soboslai came out the blue, didn't he? And it seems though that your Smacker or whatever, he's like a little bit unpredictable, isn't he? But I think we will be discussing that we bought a midfielder. Will it be Lavia? Will it be Thuram? I don't know. I really don't know. It all depends. If Fabinho's gone, then we absolutely need a holding six. We need an experienced holding six. Yeah. So
that's a good shout, that actually, because that's what we do need. And Jazz mentioned that at the beginning. Unfortunately, we do need one now, and that's without a shadow of a doubt. We really need one. And what about the final one? And we've never mentioned this kid. Be excited to see what Ben Doak will show this season. What do you think, Ben Doak?
Yeah.
Do you think he'll go out on loan, or do you think he's too young? Because I think he's brilliant, that kid, and he's got no fear. Just throw him on.
By all accounts, it was like today. Do you reckon that you were saying before?
Yeah.
Because they're really in pre-season. already. So they're holding back to see how well they do.
Yeah.
I think he's unpredictable, isn't he? And as you said, he's got no fear. But it could be great backup for Salah going the AFCON as well.
Okay. What do you think, Taz? Benzo?
He's a great little player, only 17. And yeah, what I've seen of him, he's got no fear. I mean, he's got some skill, low to the ground. I don't think he'll go out on loan. I think Klopp really, really likes this kid. And I think he'll get some minutes in the League Cup.
Okay. What about you, Brian? About Benzo?
What I've seen of him, I like him. Yeah, as you mentioned, everyone mentioned, he's fearless. I could see him again, League Cup and maybe an early Europa match, just to get his a taste of European football.
In Europe, yeah. Keith?
No, he definitely won't go alone. He'll definitely. Klopp loves him. He loves Bobby Clark as well. By the way, he thinks Clark is the next big thing. So you'll see them two lads get more time. The one lads who I always say, we've forgotten about. He was at Blackburn last season. I'd like to see where he's going to fit in potentially as Tyler Morton. With
Tyler Morton, yeah.
If there's any, but again, we're talking about another young lad, aren't we? Another young kid. But I'd like to see.
You might as well say coming from the Championship as well.
Yeah.
And so if you use, you say like Tyler Morton, he's one of our young potential prospects, right? He's ours. He is a Liverpool player. But suppose it came out that they were after a fella named Jimmy Murphy from a Championship. Think about it. Would you be happy?
No,
because there's no Jimmy Murphy. I'm just being hypothetical.
Yeah, not from a Championship. You won't.
Well, that's it, and as Stephen Snape says, Tyler Morton's got potential.
Yeah.
Tyler Morton has potential. Well, listen, lads, it's like Ken's odd on here. And I'll finish off with, I think it's a funny one, this. FSG will announce investment a day after the window closes. Spin a big spend and So what do you think? So listen, I was made up tonight. Is absolutely brilliant, every one of them. And so we have Barry White, we had little Phil Collins, right? We've got Ali in the middle, house there. Look, he's only got two little me, a bit more black. Anyway, and the wonderful Keith. The wonderful Keith. I've got to give you the ring after the show, Keith. Is that okay? Or?
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Okay, I'll give you the ring. So listen, lads, if possible, can you come back next Tuesday? Thursday.
Yeah. Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, she'll be able to.
Excellent.
Should be, yes.
Thank you so much. And it's to the lads out there as well. Always press the like for me, please, to get the algorithm out there. And if you haven't subscribed, cost absolutely nothing. Just subscribe, and you'll be able to comment to all the comments. So call us for everything, and we'll call you for everything back. So I'll just see you boys all next week. Thank you so much. See you, boys. Sit up.
See ya.
See you later.
Cheers. Ciao. And we're clear. No. I'll drop. Oh, I was going to drop, let you two talk.